Why did the Battle of Little Bighorn unfold in such brutal and unexpected ways? Stay with us to unveil the shocking details about Custer's last stand. In a letter penned on July 4, 1876, just days after the infamous clash at Little Bighorn, a young cavalry officer, Lieutenant Charles Albert Varnum, reveals shocking details that history books often fail to capture. As one of the few surviving officers of Custer's 7th Cavalry, Varnum provides a raw and vivid account of the chaos and carnage that unfolded on the battlefield. With over 300 soldiers lost, including General Custer himself, Varnum's letter to his parents offers a rare glimpse into the tragedy and triumph of that fateful day. His words carry the weight of a man grappling with the horrors he witnessed, capturing the valor of his comrades, the deadly precision of their Native American adversaries, and the haunting reality of survival. To truly understand why the Battle of Little Bighorn unfolded the way it did, we must take a closer look at the series of events leading up to it. The year 1876 was a turning point in the long-standing conflict between the U.S. government and the Native American tribes. Tensions had been building for decades as settlers encroached upon native lands, treaties were broken, and the way of life for the Plains tribes was increasingly under threat. The discovery of gold in the Black Hills of South Dakota only added fuel to the fire, as the U.S. government sought to acquire these sacred lands, despite their being guaranteed to the Sioux under the Treaty of Fort Laramie in 1868. By the spring of 1876, the U.S. Army was preparing for a major campaign to force the Lakota, Northern Cheyenne, and Arapaho back onto reservations. General George Armstrong Custer, a controversial figure known for his daring tactics and fierce ambition, was selected to lead the 7th Cavalry Regiment into battle against the tribes. Custer's reputation as a bold military leader had been cemented during the Civil War, but his egotism and tendency to underestimate his enemies would ultimately contribute to his downfall. Lieutenant Varnum, serving as the chief of scouts, was stationed in a pivotal position on the battlefield, overseeing 36 scouts as Custer's right-hand man for intelligence and reconnaissance. His strategic insight and close proximity to the unfolding disaster make his testimony both a crucial military record and a deeply personal reflection of a battle that reshaped American history. Varnum's words are imbued with a sense of both pride and regret, as he reflects on the valor of the men who fought and died alongside him, while also acknowledging the devastating consequences of Custer's decisions. As we unravel the details of his letter, we uncover the heart of the battle, the moment the tide turned, and Custer's last stand became a dark chapter etched in the annals of history. Rich History is where we set the record straight on Native American history, tribes, and culture. Lieutenant Varnum's 1876 letter, written just days after the battle, unveils shocking details about Custer's last stand. This history isn't just about soldiers, it's about the Native American warriors who fought bravely to defend their land and way of life. Let's honor their legacy as we uncover the truth behind this tragic event. The letter begins on June 22, 1876. Lieutenant Varnum, a young and courageous cavalry officer, recounts how General George Armstrong Custer led the 7th Cavalry Regiment into hostile territory. Their mission is to confront the combined forces of the Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho tribes along the Rosebud River. Varnum's squad of 36 scouts, including Native American Crow and Ree warriors, tracked the movements of the indigenous forces as tensions mounted. Custer's determination was fierce, but his strategy was flawed. Varnum's letter speaks to the strength and strategic intelligence of the Native American warriors who saw through the regiment's plans. The men of the 7th Cavalry, led by Custer, faced a battle far more brutal than they had anticipated, and Varnum's letter lays bare the human cost of that mistake. Custer's decision to ignore the warnings of his scouts was one of the most critical miscalculations leading to the disaster. The letter vividly describes the scouts' role. 6 Crow warriors, deeply familiar with the land, repeatedly warned Custer of the immense native force ahead. They urged caution, but Custer, overconfident and eager for victory, pressed on. Varnum and his scouts, riding tirelessly for over 36 hours, reached a high bluff overlooking the Little Bighorn Valley. At dawn, the sight below was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Smoke rising from an enormous native village. Yet despite the warnings, Custer underestimated the numbers and strength of his enemy. The Crow and Ree scouts had seen signs of a massive force, 2,000 or more warriors, they said. But Custer pushed forward. This decision, as Varnum painfully recounts, would seal the fate of the 7th Cavalry. On June 25, 1876, Custer's forces launched their assault. Major Reno led 3 companies into battle, but they were quickly overwhelmed. Varnum, watching from a distance, describes the chaos and bloodshed as Reno's troops charged into the heart of the native camp, only to be met by a fierce counterattack. Outnumbered and surrounded, they were forced to retreat to a bluff, losing many men in the process. Varnum's letter spares no detail. He recalls how Reno's companies, decimated by the Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors, took shelter in the woods and atop the bluffs. The relentless fire from native forces left many wounded and dead. Among the fallen was Lieutenant Hodgson, a grim reminder of the high cost of this ill-conceived battle. While Reno's men regrouped on the bluffs, Custer and his 5 companies pressed on, unaware of the magnitude of the force they faced. Varnum and the surviving officers could hear the gunfire from Custer's location but were powerless to help. In his letter, Varnum reveals the heart-wrenching truth. Custer and his men were overwhelmed. By the time Varnum and his comrades regrouped, it was too late. The aftermath of the battle was nothing short of devastating. The letter describes how, in the aftermath, General Terry's forces arrived, only to discover the full extent of the devastation. Custer and over 300 men had been killed. Their bodies were stripped, mutilated, and left on the battlefield as a chilling testament to the ferocity of the battle. Among the dead were 16 officers, including General Custer, Captain Keogh, and Lieutenant Cook. Now let's round up to talk about the native victory. Varnum's letter may center on the U.S. Army's perspective, but the victory belonged to the Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors. These native forces, fighting for their land, their families, and their way of life, had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. The Battle of Little Bighorn was not just a military encounter. It was a clash of cultures, a moment of resistance, and a statement of sovereignty by the native tribes. The letter underscores the tactical genius of the Native American leaders, including Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse. These leaders, deeply rooted in their tribe's traditions and history, outmaneuvered Custer and defended their sacred lands from further encroachment. Varnum's letter concludes with a somber reflection on the personal toll of the battle. He recounts how Mrs. Custer lost not only her husband but also her brothers, and Mrs. Calhoun suffered the loss of her husband and 3 brothers. These losses, though devastating, pale in comparison to the collective grief of the Native American families who defended their homelands from invasion. The defeat of Custer's forces sent shockwaves through the United States. For many Americans, the news of the defeat was unthinkable. Custer had been considered a national hero, and the idea that native forces could defeat him seemed inconceivable. However, for the native tribes who fought at Little Bighorn, the battle represented a hard-fought victory in their struggle to defend their lands and way of life. This letter, written in the raw aftermath of the Battle of Little Bighorn, reveals the brutal reality of war and the unmatched courage of Native American warriors. Their victory that day was not just one of survival, but a powerful assertion of their right to exist on their own lands, free from the encroachment of settlers and soldiers. At iRich History, we honor their legacy by sharing the untold histories of Native American history. If you want to learn more about Native American tribes, culture, and the history that shaped this land, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this video with others. Thanks for watching, and remember, the past is our greatest teacher. Subscribe to iRich History for deeper insights into Native American history and untold stories from the past. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next fascinating video. Share this video with your friends to keep the legacy of these great warriors alive.